Welcome back to a brand new episode of Musings. Musings with Mitch. Why haven't you started a podcast called Musings with Mitch or Mitchings?
Mitchings would be a great title.
That would be fantastic.
Totally would be.
I'd be appreciative of that. Mr. Langman. Mr. Mitch Langman, thank you very much for jumping on the podcast. Now, you've been a good friend of mine for the last, 29? I met you when I was 17. Last 12 years.
Yeah, thereabouts, man.
Right. You've trained me up to fight in the ring. We've held hands when we're both crying. We've jumped in. I'm not sure. I can't remember specific. I'm just guessing that's happened. And
fantastical memory, yes.
Yeah, that's right. A press what? And then obviously we moved into a different gym together, and so on and so forth. So we've got a massive background. You've been a very dear friend to me, and I look up to you in many ways. So I'm very happy to have you on the podcast today, and hopefully I know we're going to have a fantastic banter, but see where it goes and what happens. But before we do that, if you could please give all the listeners a background for you in the sense of who you are, like where you started, and effectively what business you have now, and what has created you to be who you are today, and we'll go from there.
Loaded question.
Yeah, well, we've got like a little while. It's Sunday.
Sunday, we're just having a beer. It's fine. It's great. It's great.
We've got a couple of bottles of whiskey. We're good.
We're good. Yeah, 35 years in the making. My martial arts journey started when I was 13 and here in Canberra. Then started coaching when I was 20, actually. And in that time, developed the love and the passion for Muay Thai. Over the years, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, self-preservation, knife defense, that kind of deal. And then really realizing that there's a lot more to it than just the simple, let's punch someone, let's choke someone, let's whatever. So the true nature of martial arts being the physical, the psychological, and also the emotional aspects of it, which we've had many discussions to great depth about. And, being the ultimate realization of it in combat, so replicating in the ring or in the cage or on the mats in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competition. Seeing people and helping them grow, develop, and adapt. Evolve, if you want to call it that, from what they believe they can't do to a realization of what they can do. So it's a great thing, and I've driven a desk public service for 11 years to help fund effectively the creation of the gym. And then, as you said, we occupied the same space over at Stockade in Dixon. That was some good times there. And then, when we actually went solo, you moved out to Mitchell. We started Woden. And now, effectively established own building and tenancy over in Phillip now.
Yep.
So it's a long way, man.
Yep.
It's been brilliant, though.
I remember, so obviously I wouldn't have my business if it wasn't my connections with you on some level, because you put me in touch with the guys at the Stockade. And then when I caught up with Gary Hamilton, fuck that guy, he's the best. He's hilarious.
Fucking wizard level 20, yep.
Yeah, exactly right. Short little fat guy. Right, I hope he didn't hear me say that. He won't listen to this.
He will punch you from where he is currently.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll wake up in the middle of the night with a black eye. What
exactly,
the fuck?
how?
Yeah, but and then in touch with the other owner, and I remember it wasn't just my conversation with Gary, because when he figured out I wasn't there to talk about Thai Kickboxing, because I was a student of yours, but I was like, actually, I want to start my own business out of the Stockade. He's like, oh, you need to speak to Andrew. Caught up with Andrew, and at early stages, my early influences weren't obviously CrossFit. However, I knew that maybe that could be an angle if I could talk to him, similar but not quite the same, because it was MMA, mixed martial arts gym, and he wasn't really interested in it because he was already training at a CrossFit gym as it was anyway. But it's a perfect example of not being authentic, because it wasn't what I wanted to do. But it's how I thought I could be strategic, and it didn't necessarily work. But he didn't say no. That's what I remember. And then you let me know that there was a staff meeting at the tradesmen's club, and so I was like, "Oh, are you coming?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll come." It's like they never said yes to me, but I'll come along. And I just remember sitting there, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I'm here for the staff meeting." And sure enough, I caught up with Andrew again, and he sort of. He goes, all right, well, look, this is how we can start. And that's how I started with myself and 6 clients. But that's when 3 weeks after you would have started at the Stockade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a great story. But I suppose I remember talking to you. You talked about the public service. Talk me through the process of you making the decision to go full time.
Oh man, I mean, going from public services, if that's your goal in life, fantastic. And if it helps you build your goals and aspirations outside of that, house, family, whatever that is, fantastic. But for me personally, it was just being that one cog in a big machine, and regardless of what you did, it was never effectively good enough. Driving a desk was completely unfulfilling, and where I sought and found my fulfillment was on the mats. And so, I would constantly look forward to, finishing up at, 4 or 5 p.m, getting to the gym, and I'd spend the next 4 or 5 hours in the gym coaching people, developing, building myself, everything. And, despite the money, the safety nets and that kind of thing, it got to that critical mass point, ticked over 10 years, got the long service leave, milked it for as long as I could, and then went, yep, cool, time to remove the safety net. I resigned, and I've never looked back. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are days where I just go, oh my God, I wish that I still had that sick leave benefit of just being able to take a mental health day. But you drag your ass to the mat, your mind follows, and then next thing you know, you're engaged with someone on the mats, and you have to be there. And it just re-energizes you. It's great.
I remember talking to you at a cafe, and obviously we're at two different stages in our lives. But you talked about the security of having a full-time job, and you'd obviously been sitting on the fence and in your own head about this for a little while. And then I'm like, look, Mitch, I remember this clear as day. I'm like, you just don't strike me as a guy that sees that someone else deciding how much you're worth and when you're allowed to finish work and start work as security. And you're like,
fuck you, David. I think was the answer.
But that's it. Like it is like, people there are people that are far more happier to be, the second or third or fourth or fifth in charge, and happy to run the systems to do that. And they do that well, and they find big pride in that. And so something like the public service, or not being able to finish work and go home and watch TV and their favourite shows and play with their children, whatever it may be. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. In the same way, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being more obsessed about leaving a legacy or having some sort of purpose or fulfillment behind the hours that you put into something that is majority of your life. So it's because there are countless, obviously thousands, if not more, people who want to be able to make that transition from 9 to 5 to their passion, so to speak. And then it's like, it's not an easy road at all to go from that safety net. But it's not just a safety net in the sense of the income. It's a safety net as in that's familiar to me. No,
correct. And I mean, the income is one thing, leave entitlements, that kind of deal, super. So not only do you get stuck in that trap of the immediate of, this fortnight I have X amount of money. You get stuck in if I want to buy a house, if I want to retire at the age of. So you really start projecting forward, 30, 40, 50 years. And it's almost textbooks planning. I'm going to meet a partner, I'm going to, buy a house, I'm going to have kids, and then I'm going to retire. And for all those things to happen, I need protection. And I need that safety, I need that security. Man, I was not made for it. Not made for mediocrity of that nature.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing. It's good that you say mediocrity of that nature, because it's like people can do really, really well in that space, but if they go in to do their own business, they can be really mediocre.
Yes.
Right? So it's correct. Like, it's not about the public services mediocre. No. That's not the case at all.
It is where you find that level of fulfillment, that engagement of the passion.
Dude, absolutely. It's just in fashion at the moment to start a business. Or to have some sort of side hustle or something along those lines. And I mean, like, to have more income, I think is more lucrative today than it was 50, 60 years ago, for a whole range of reasons. Booms. But in that circumstance, it's also like, it's easier to have some sort of side income. And people don't sort of understand by working a couple of extra hours. Okay, here's another point that I'll bring up before I touch on that, actually. Here's what a lot of young people don't understand. That they think if you pay me more, I'll do more work. But the world doesn't fucking work like that.
No.
It's, if you want to get paid more, then do more than what you get paid for. And this is one of the key things that I've come to learn, is that you don't get paid for ideas, you get paid for done. When you've completed something, when you brought it to the marketplace, when you completed a project, when you completed a book, whatever it might be, you get paid for done, not paid for, I have this idea, if you pay me, I'll do it.
Yeah. It's a very interesting one, and especially having that experience in public service where, excuse me, where, you know, you work in a team of 10, for argument's sake, and, you know, you're working on, say, 100 jobs, and it'll just be a generic, nondescript job.
Sure.
But you're working on 100 jobs. And then 2 of your team members, you know, they have to go on leave, or they get sick, or they get a new job, whatever. They leave the job.
Cat's birthday. Whatever.
Yeah. Bingo. It's important. It's important to recognise your cat's birthday, you know, same as dogs.
Yeah.
But, you know, your team leader approaches you and goes, okay, guys, you know, we're going to be working under pressure for the next, you know, 6 weeks until, you know, John gets back from leave. You know, really good if you can pick up the pace. So then you've got 8 people fulfilling the role of 10.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, okay, cool. We can do this because my work ethic dictates as such.
Mm-hmm.
So then you get your 8 people doing 100 jobs. That person gets back and they go, well, 8 people functioned doing 100. Now we have extra capacity returned. Can we now do more? And you're like...
Or get rid of.
Or get rid of. Or
Yeah.
what if that person doesn't come back? And then, you know, 2 years down the track, you're still at that work capacity.
Mm.
And it really brings that that work ethic into question. And exactly as you say, work to pay, that kind of deal. And it's unsurprising when they turn around and go, well, I only get paid, you know, $25 an hour. This job is worth way more than that. You know, so I'm going to work to that standard or that output or whatever it is. And I can understand that because I've been in that position several times. The cool thing is, though, is that if I equate that to what I currently do on the mats, there's no parallels whatsoever. It would not work in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Because unlike just rocking up regular routine 9 to 5 kind of deal, you know, I have no idea what an opponent's going to bring.
Yep.
I can't make sure I train just that little bit harder.
Yeah, yeah.
You need to train as hard as you can, which works into what you said, that effectively, if you want to get paid more, then do more, work harder. But again, it comes down to working smarter as well, because there is a cap to whatever job that you're in, and the level of fulfillment you can get with that before you start going, okay, I'm not getting paid enough, or this isn't worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the key reasons why you should have mentors, right? It's like it's somebody that's already walked the road that you want to go down. It's so crucial to have a mentor or a coach down. Otherwise, you're just fucking swimming on gravel. And it's like, why does this hurt?
Yeah.
Why am I not getting anywhere?
Yeah, but the mentors that you choose as well, it might not be in the totality of it. Like, you know, as you know, I'm a massive fan of being congruent. So one level isn't the same as the next, and so on and so forth. And you might have a mentor, but not in the totality of it. So, you know, you might have a business coach, for argument's sake, but he's, you know...
Unethical or something?
No, he's just in a miserable relationship and, you know, whatever it is. Or, you know, the guy might be able to talk the talk, but he might not necessarily walk the walk.
Yep.
But it doesn't devalue the information that he gives you.
Sure.
However, there is that, you know, that huge however, that you kind of go, okay, well, why can't you just walk the walk as well? And then that's the true kind of what we try to evolve into. And I know that you're definitely going through that phase at the moment. And the aspiration of it is, okay, let's walk the walk and talk the talk. So it's great having the theoretical knowledge. Let's put its practical test.
Well,
And, same with myself, constantly.
It brings back the argument of, like, if you know and do not do you even know?
Correct.
And it's sort of like, it kind of tie back to the whole, like, get paid for done, or the idea if you want to get paid more, then do more than what you get paid for. And keep in mind, like, pay, I'm not just talking money. That's the metaphor, right? Pay could be the achievement. Pay could be the results. Pay could be your name on a board at the golf club.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like, if you put my name on that board, I'll work hard to get on there. Mitch, if you give me I know I'm only a brown belt, but if you give me a black belt, man, I'll be the best black belt.
Yeah.
It's like, no, buddy. No. You good brown belts don't get given black belts. Black belts
Get given black belts.
get given black belts.
Correct.
And so this is the idea. And the easiest way to think about it is if you team up with a fight, then I'll train for the fight. So
Yes.
No. You need to prove yourself to train for a long time, because it's not just you in the ring. That's not you in the ring, and this could be a soccer field, it could be a business meeting.
Yeah, whatever that arena is.
Absolutely. It's not just you in there. It's every single person that has invested even a moment of time is in there with you. And this is why, like, fighting is not an individual sport.
No.
It's not at all.
Many people walk that path, but you ultimately step in the ring.
Yeah.
And that is also why, the best fighters have that certain level of self-belief, of that ego, because they have to. It's great to think that, it'll go down on the statistics, but there's always that 1 or that 10% chance, always, regardless of how well you've prepared, that you'll get caught slipping. And that's all it takes is one shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I think fighting is such a good analogy and metaphor on so many levels, but that's the biggest thing people don't understand about martial arts. It's like, it's that fighting, cage fighting. It's like, it's not cage fighting. Excuse me, it's a beer. It's not cage fighting. Like, what I mean, like, I understand they're fighting in a cage, but it's more than that. What we're observing right now are countless of hours of martial art, right? And then those countless of hours have actually given their countless hours into an individual that you're now observing, who has put countless of hours in, right? So this person is standing on the shoulders of giants who stood on the shoulders of giants to be able to, not necessarily, like, the key thing is, like, prove something on the mats. It's like, yeah, sure, but it's not about beating everyone else if you're running away from something inside.
No.
You've lost the art of the martial arts.
Correct. And I mean, it's the ultimate expression, in my eyes, of vulnerability. So whether you be man or woman, the idea exactly that, it is this, throwback to, primitive kind of violence, you're correct. It is. And we should never lose contact with that.
Well, it's transcend and include.
Yes.
We think we're better than that. It's like, we are better than that. It doesn't mean that we don't have it.
Yeah.
Transcend and include.
And we were discussing about the foundations. It's exactly where the foundations are. And at the end of it, if you can't throw down and, again, walk the walk. So it's great theoretical knowledge, but, if that's all it is, then that's effectively, it's worthless. It's pointless. Yeah. But if for a man, the last thing they want to think of is that, they could be dominated, be found wanting or found short in any way, shape or form. For a female, it's to be found powerless, to be dominated. And unfortunately, it will be by a male. It doesn't matter what circumstance it is. It's that vulnerability for the male and the female. And you step on the mats and you face that vulnerability. So on the mats is done in private. Yeah, cool, it might be in a class scenario, that kind of deal, but it's at your gym. You can then get that 1% of the 1% that goes through to compete in the cage, in the ring, on the mats, at the Worlds, whatever it is. And exactly as I said, you are seeing that culmination of time on those mats in that state of vulnerability to then put themselves on show at the highest level. And of course, people can give all these really, altruistic values as to why they fight. In the end, it comes down to prove that I can do it. Money's also a good motivator, but that's the 1% of the 1% of the 1% at the top level.
Yeah.
And UFC sells that dream really well. But again, man, there are so many fighters out there.
Well, I mean, UFC is able to sell that dream very well because it just means there's a lot of inverted commas, entrepreneurs,
Correct.
fighters.
Yes.
Right? That's you know, you're not just a fighter anymore. Like Mayweather and, like, sure, he's a fighter, but to clarify a deeper perspective on that, he didn't make his money fighting. He made his money as a media
Correct.
company.
Yes.
About a fighter. He just happened to be both. And old mate Connor does the exact same thing. They're media companies, right? And people sometimes lose this idea and concept that we're watching fighters fight, but we're watching a story unfold.
Yes.
And that's really what's happening, because otherwise, why would they try and sell the fight beforehand? It's to get eyes on the story. And when people can sell a story and it has a climax that has, like, we'll meet here for the result no matter what happens, people will watch. And so we're not just watching two fighters fight, we're watching stories unfold. And it's half WWE, half MMA.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is exactly, that is why professional wrestling is so, because they do it so well.
Yeah.
It is
drama.
It is a soap opera played out in the ring.
Yeah.
And, credit where credit's due. Those guys are athletes to get out there and do it week after week after week. And, you've seen the crossover from professional wrestling to the cage, and then from the cage out to professional wrestling. And that's incredible. But again, it is that marketable brand, the brand of the individual.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, it's phenomenal. But I mean, like, one of the biggest things that human beings, which is congruent across just about every single human being, is our love for stories, right? And people, I didn't for a long time give enough precedence to how important stories are.
Oh, incredibly.
Yeah, until I read this, like, I knew it, but I was like, oh, okay, that's, an idea, strategy, or something along those lines, and it was like, it makes sense, yeah, sure. Then I read the Storyteller's Secret by Carmine Gallo. He read another book called Talk Like Ted. And I read that 2 years ago when I was on a bus from, like, Alabama to Florida, on a Greyhound bus, and it was like right, this is starting to make a lot of sense. And what I started to realize and what unfolded in front of me was that everything is a story, and everything, like from someone selling you a TV, they're selling you a story that you could be involved in, to someone go, hey, do you want to go to the movies? They're not saying that the cinema is literally a place where stories unfold. So it's like, what story would you like to go watch? Which one sounds like the best story for us to go watch it? And the best story is going to evoke the most emotion, right? Sometimes that emotion is laughter, or, an extroverted variation of happiness. Sometimes it's sadness, whatever it might be, but a good story will have that. And, in business, we look up to some of the best storytellers. Richard Branson's one of the best storytellers. Yes. Right? And Gary Vaynerchuk, it's these kind of individuals that learn how to be able to pass on a message that everyone can understand, but came through a story. And that's why it's like, oh, it's anecdotal. It's like, then why is it so powerful? Why does that seem to be a bad thing? It's like, everyone here gets it, and we all leave a smarter person because of it. You sit down and you watch kids TV. Not that I do that recently, but, I'm sure at some stage in my future I will be like, fucking sick of this TV show. But they're all stories. Yes. It's just, stories are everywhere, and when we can understand the power of stories and sharing our own, I think this is one of the biggest things I've learned. And if you see my writings on Facebook, for example, I'll constantly stare. Don't stare. Just staring at people. Staring my shori. My shori. Shori sounds like a bad thing. It's like, oh, dude, that guy dumped a shori. Anyway. Well, that is Geordie Shore. Yeah, that's right. And so the sharing the story idea is like, I'm gonna share a part. It's almost like the 1% of the 1% of my story that has a difficulty, an epiphany, and an outcome. And if you look at them, they have a variation of all that. But it's because I'm like, well, how can I get people to relate to this and realize that there's still hope, right? And that was one of the biggest things, and it's one of the reasons why I love writing, why I love doing this. It's like, and people don't understand that with my podcast, like, I get literally an hour a week practice of being able to pull apart my thoughts and tell stories. Yeah. It's like, that's what I get to do. So it's great that people listen, but I had to make sure that I was okay with no one listening before I started the podcast. Because maybe no one downloads. Maybe there's going to be 0 downloads. Will I be okay with that? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, right. I do it for the right reason then. Yeah. No, it's
the power of the story is incredible, and it's something that I use very heavily in my day-to-day coaching and my training.
And you should.
Yeah, 100%. The if you break it down though, it's, you know, everyone's an addict of some form, and the biggest addicts are drama addicts. And so most people, when you say, tell me a story, and I'll say this, it's like when someone's had something happen and I've got to pull them into the gym, got to do a welfare check, whatever it is, I'll say, cool, tell me a story. You owe me a story. And I'll hear the story of their last week, of their last month, and that might be one part of the story of the 20 years or whatever it is. You know, a new client comes into the gym and they say, you know, I'm really keen on, you know, learning how to defend myself and my family and all this kind of deal. Cool, man, no worries. 2 weeks, 3 weeks into it, you've built that, you know, rapport with them, and you go, cool, tell me a story. Tell me the story of, you know, Mark, for argument's sake. You know, it's, how old are you now? 48 years, cool, it's 48 years in the making. Tell me that story. And in a nutshell, they'll give you the really boring, I should never write a book version. Mm-hmm. But then they'll give you the true version.
People are fascinating, and
very.
You know who did this? I know you know who did this very extremely well. That's a way to explain things. I sound like Donald Trump. This is a very extremely well told story. People are the people of New York, humans of New York. Like the guy that built that up, he's a fucking. I'm pretty sure he's a millionaire now. Like that's just
unsurprised
to be able to like measure that, like his success in telling the people of New York stories.
Yeah,
everyone's fascinating. And when we realise that, we stop putting quotes such as, when you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. No, fuckhead, you're the most ignorant person in that room.
Yeah.
You're not the smartest. And,
again, it's interesting from a developmental, you know, phase, that story, and going back and challenging that story and not in effect rewriting that story, but as opposed to, okay, these are the statement of facts. It's like, okay, but how do you view those? And something that happened when you were 20 versus something, looking back at that when you were 35, huge, absolutely huge. And my aim is to make my story as successful as possible and fulfilling as possible for me. And so, you know, a lot of the times you ask people, cool, give me an idea, like, what's your favourite movies? And I'll go, Harry Potter. And they'll go, okay, and Bourne Supremacy, like the Bourne series. And you go, okay, tell me about Harry Potter, tell me about the characters. Oh, it's about this kid and blah, 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 blah. Trial, torment, overcomes, you know, happy days. Jason Bourne, you know, sleeper agent, this, boom, done. And it always has that, okay, well, here's the antagonist, here's this. Here's his trials, here's how he overcomes it, and the underdog rises. And that is that hope that you said. Yeah. That's why we go to movies. We go to, you know, this favorite movie, and when I'm feeling down, I love watching this movie or whatever it is. And it's because we want to have that sense of hope that, you know, well, Harry Potter did it, I can do it, and because I can identify with that trial, with that torment, with that ongoing, you know, need to fight. Yeah. And it's incredible. Because if you told the story of Harry Potter, or any really good businessman, you go, okay, cool, tell me about Harry Potter. Harry Potter's wizard, born a wizard, did really good as wizard, thumbs up. You wouldn't watch that movie. No. Here's Jason Bourne, sleeper agent, activates and kills people. Oh, why do you kill people? Because that's his job. Yeah. Boring. Sure. Without drama, without this kind of deal. Here's a story of a billionaire, but he started off with the humble beginnings of a millionaire. Yeah. You'd go, I want to hear the story about the guy that started with like less than $10.
I want to hear Fight Club.
Yeah, baby. I want to hear Fight Club.
I want to hear Fight Club.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the anti-hero?
Yes.
Right? See, this is the thing about Fight Club, and this is something I learned in the last year, is that it's I believe it's full reference to shadow work. Right? Full reference to like
100%.
It's like, that's his shadow that got sick of the 9 to 5, for example, and fucking ruined his life. Right, because he was doing the wrong thing by his soul, and it's so fucking interesting. It's like you go back and watch that, and you're like, holy shit, this is fascinating. Like now, and before it was like, well, that's kind of weird. Why do I connect with that? I'm not sure, But yeah, now you look back and you're like, it's archetypal rather, and the shadow of the parts of us that we don't like, that we disown, it's coming to fucking get you, and it's going to punch you right in the face.
Exactly.
And that's why all these other people connect with it and want to be a part of it, because they too have this rage inside of them that's going to fuck their life over.
Yes.
Right? And people are prepared to die for finding the truth of who they are, and that's the whole idea behind it. It's phenomenal. But think about it. What are they doing? They're producing soap. Why? Because they want to become clean. Like it's too beautiful.
Yeah, and I mean, you see the internet meme, all the time. Fight Club became the reason that you kept your hair short, your nails trimmed, presentable, that kind of deal. One of the assignments from that movie that I loved was go out, start a fight, and lose. And that was a really good test on two fronts. One is, could they start a fight? Two, could they lose it?
Right.
So the best viral spreading of that feeling of elation and euphoria, and he explains it that the busboy that earned $10 an hour, but when he had that kid pinned and beating him senseless, he felt powerful. So then how do we get other people on board with this? Well, I'm going to go out into the street, I'm going to start a fight, and I'm going to lose.
There are so many things about it, right? Is that like, it shows you that when you take your ego out on the street, you're going to lose, right? But where do they go to fight the darker parts of them?
Yeah.
In the basement, right? They go to the dark place in their home to find the parts of themselves they've rejected, to fight them. Like, there's so many, like, almost mythological standpoints to this story that go, oh, it's just about people fighting and guys and this and that, and you're like,
so much. And if have you read the book?
No, I have never read the book.
Okay, do yourself a favor, read the book, because the one thing that doesn't really get brought up too much in the movie is his ongoing almost homosexual attraction to Tyler.
Right.
And he's the person he can never be, and he's the person he wants to be with.
Yeah.
And it's a completely different ending in the book as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, very different. Very different. And it's ongoing.
Yeah.
It never ends.
So this is one thing I haven't studied yet, although it's been sitting on my bookshelf, but I've gone through it a little bit before. I know Miff, my business partner, she's gone through it a fair bit. But the hero's journey. Now, do you know the steps around the hero's journey?
Yeah, roughly, yes.
Roughly. I got the book here. I'm gonna read through the actual steps, because this is literally what the Matrix is built on. By the way, that was a documentary. This is also like Star Wars, Wizard of Oz, all that sort of stuff. But it's just Joseph Campbell was the person. I mean, like he sort of was in bed with Freud and Jung. However, it's quite fascinating, I suppose, understanding how the drama within this story and how it's told. But it literally is, how many steps are there, depending on which one you look at. I think there are, what is there, 6, 12, maybe 17, it says here. But either way, like, it goes from like the call to adventure, right? And usually there's which is the next one, refusal of the call. So you think of the Matrix at the start, right? The call to adventure, he refuses it. It's usually the third.
Yeah.
We're here now.
Follow the white rabbit. Yeah,
exactly right. Yep. And then the supernatural aid, and so that's often like in Matrix, it's Morpheus, right? And in the Wizard of Oz, I can't remember who it was exactly. It was the happy witch, or with the good witch. There was at the start where she's like, follow the yellow brick road.
Yes.
That was the supernatural aid, right? And so this happens again and again, and it happens within our life as well. Sometimes the supernatural aid may be a YouTube video or a book that we read,
something that resonates so deeply.
The thing about this for a moment, though, is that, like, so probably my supernatural aid, if I really think about it, I think there's so many hero's journeys within the hero's journey as well. Every single training session is a hero's journey on some level. And so the supernatural aid, I mean, the book Think and Grow Rich that I read when I was 19 was a part of that, because I have someone's words speaking to me from 1930, give or take. I can't remember exact year, but that's unheard of 200 years ago, 400 years ago, right? To think that this person in writing, who is far past dead, right, they can speak to me and communicate to me. And like that's on some level supernatural. The fact that people are listening to this podcast around the world. There's people in the UAE that listen to this, in the US. I mean, I had people from Iceland downloading my last one, which is funny because the musings before that, I'm like, I've never had a download in Iceland, and then it popped up in the next one. Yeah. So and then in that case, I've never had a download in North Korea. So I've had it in Korea though. Anyway, my whole point there being is that like that's supernatural on some level. That there's vibrations from my voice box can pierce the world around. Like it's phenomenal. And then you get the crossing of the first threshold, right? Which is entering the matrix. That's the first threshold. It's like, okay, I'm in the matrix. I'm here now, right? And for some people, this is like, I know that when they first inquire and they never respond back.
Yep.
And then they inquire again and then they never respond back. And the third time I have to get them in. They have to cross that threshold. That's for the gym, let alone anything else, right? And then after that, it's the belly of the whale. So now they're in the fucking whale. They've crossed the threshold. They're in the belly of the whale. There's no fucking escape. And then after that comes, I'm literally reading from the book here, the road of trials. And so now it's like, well, now that I'm in the belly of the whale, I can't go back. I have to move through the poop system, really. It's like, through all the trials. You gotta
go through the shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Literally, I have to go through the whole fucking thing. I can't escape it. There's no going back. I burnt the bridge. I burnt the boats. I have to move forwards. And then it's the meeting with the goddess, and often this is the divine feminine on some level that is able to give some sort of compassion and love and enlightenment that you couldn't get otherwise. After that, it's woman as a temptress, and I think this is the tempting version of the divine female, right? Which is quite interesting, and I've seen people do this. I've seen people grow. Let's talk about some of my mates. They've grown in this masculine way. They're like, this is almost in relation to their manlyhood, right? And they're about to break through, but then they get tempted by usually their past, but it's just a different face. Funny enough, Joseph Campbell, a hero with 1,000 faces. Yeah. Right? I'm like, mate, same fucking story, different face.
Yep.
It's the same story, different face, and that temptress pulls them back. And then it's at one minute with the father, right? And then apotheosis, the ultimate boon. And thinking of all that, it's like the masculine is known through mythological stories forever to be a symbol of order. And people often think about chaos and order, and I know Peterson talks about it heaps, right? But they go, chaos is bad, so why is the chaos and the feminine always associated with bad? It's like, no. Like you can change that word if you want. It's just a symbol of things that are feminine, that are beautiful, that are have this flexible energy to it, that has compassion. Like that's just what it is. But order isn't good. We think order is good. It's like if we had no chaos and only order, that's called tyranny.
Yes.
It's the balance of both that we need.
Yeah, it's the world of black and white and the grey in between.
It's a certainty and uncertainty, correct. And so after that, it's the ultimate boon, like I mentioned, refusal of the return. Because in this place, I'm fucking king. I'm doing really well here. I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to the real world. I'm not ready for that. I don't want to go back to it. And I'm sure you could probably tie this into like fight training.
Oh, literally, as you're speaking, I'm just correlating this.
The magic flight, and then we just go to Vegas on a flight, and that's the magic flight. I'm kidding. So the magic flight is, in the sense of going like a refusal of return, but there's this ability to transcend to the next level, and I have that through the magic flight, the crossing of the return threshold. So in the same way, this is probably now the pooper, this is probably the rectum, Victoria, Wales, but it's like the same thing. I get to cross that threshold, and the Matrix, that symbol of the threshold, was going back into the real world, going back into, I suppose, what everyone deemed as the grey dull. And this is why at the start of the Matrix, everything's kind of grey. It's not colourful. And same with Wizard of Oz as well. Everything's grey, and then the tornado, which was somewhat supernatural, started having flickers of colour. Yeah. And the master of the two worlds, so you've got the master of the real world and the master of the Matrix, so to speak. You're able to identify and see both, and then freedom to live. So yeah, so that's the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell, or known as the book. It's called The Hero with 1,000 Faces. So I haven't done enough research into it yet to understand it in totality, but it's stunning how consistent that is across the board with stories.
Incredibly so. And if I was to equate that to what I do, so martial arts, coaching, training, everything, and then in particular fight preparation. So you get your, Joe Civilian on the street, and he inquires, and he's got his own motivations, he's got his own stories, and he's gone through those steps umpteen times already. But this is now the next kind of, okay, time to check, time to learn, time to grow, time to adapt. So they reach out, and seldom do I ever get anyone who reaches out to me and says, cool, I'll be there next week, and actually turns up.
Yeah.
I'll be there next week. And a week or two will go by, and then I'll get a follow-up email or call saying, hey, just double checking if this is still available. Yeah, it's still available, man. Drop in. And they drop in, and they go, this was amazing. And seldom do I get anyone signing up straight away. What I do get is people that will go away and then evaluate. Okay, is this what I want to do? Can I do this at this point in time? And I mean, you can put it down to finances, argument's sake. Yeah, cool. Finance, time, resource, crap. But in the end, it comes down to, okay, am I ready to make this change? Because there's one really cool thing on the mats. Iron. Henry Rollins has a really good story about that. The truth in the iron. And there's no lying on the mats.
Yep.
You can tell yourself you're benching 100, but if you're benching 80, you're benching 80.
Yep.
There's no lying.
Yep.
If you can say you can bench 100, you better be able to bench 100. So there's that congruency.
The iron doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, the iron
doesn't care. The truth doesn't care.
Yeah. Neither do the mats, and neither does your opponent.
No.
And, so people come in and they do shadow sparring. And no one likes shadow sparring. Everyone fucking hates shadow sparring.
Yeah.
To begin with.
Yeah. Yep.
Because they feel inadequate. Everyone's watching. It's that insecurity to the fore. And the truth be told, no one's watching.
Yeah. And there's no hiding.
No.
Right? That's the thing about the mats. I learned that in cricket, actually. In AFL, because it was continually, in football, it continually kept going.
Yes.
So I could hide.
And it's a team.
Yeah. And that's what I learned with cricket, and it was the same with martial arts. But with cricket, it's like, because it's start and stop. And so the ball, like if you drop to catch, there's like 2 minutes or a minute and a half. Well, it feels like fucking 5 before the next delivery. And it's like, you can't hide. You can't run around and hide among, for AFL, 36 players on the field. Yes. It's like, I dropped the catch.
Yeah.
And then you're like...
But if you're bowling, you're bowling
at
the batter. If you're a batsman, that ball is being bowled at you.
Yep.
If you're the fielder, that ball is being hit at you.
Yep.
So there's a direct you.
Yep, absolutely.
Whereas effectively on the AFL field, like any large team sports, if you just kind of stay away from the ball, let's keep on the blind side, fine, absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Whereas...
you'll get found out at some point.
Correct. That's exactly it. But on the mats, lifting weights, whatever it is, there's no lying. There's absolutely no lying. And you can kid yourself. Like I've had roles where I've gone, wow, I really should have done better on that one. I've had sparring rounds where I've gone, should have really done better on that one. I've had fights where I've gone, yeah, really probably should have won that one. I enabled myself to fail. And that's that challenge. So it's not the initial challenge of crossing the threshold of stepping onto the mats. It's then realizing, wow, this has nothing to do with anyone else but me. And then you go, okay, it's all about me. Oh shit, it's all about me. I don't want to deal with me. Can't I blame someone else?
Yeah.
No, you can't.
It's the first thought. I mean, that's the first thought. You lose, and you're like, whose fault is this?
Yes.
And the first thought for me was always external.
Yes.
I mean, I only had one fight, and lucky enough, I won. Well, lucky, give or take, right?
Yes.
There'd probably be an element, but it's not the ingredient.
No.
Right? It's like, what's in sugar? Sugar. It's like, it's not like that, right?
How far do we want to break this down?
Yeah. So in that circumstance, it was always, if something didn't go well, and even here, I'm like, I straight away would think of, well, whose fault is that? And my brain will think, and I give myself space to go, what is my role in this? And when my first business partner just upped and left, and you're familiar with this situation, I remember I was with my other business partner, and they were talking about, like, mate, it's not your fault. And I'm like, no, but I played a role in this, and I need to be able to identify what role I played, otherwise I won't learn.
Yeah.
And if you're in the ring and you lose, I'm sorry, buddy, but you played a very big role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was a dance. There were two people dancing at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the fight is you versus me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to do that tonight. Damn. So I just put up because I remember there being a little bit different in the hero's journey. I just put it up on the web, and so this is the 12 stages of the hero's journey. So it's a little bit different. It's the same fucking premise, though, same story, but there's 3 acts, right? And an actual movie will have this.
Yes.
Because it has the first act. The thing has to happen within the first like 5 minutes or something like that, right? And then the third act is the finish, and the middle act is effectively the plot. However, there's ordinary world, special world, and then back to the ordinary world, and that's in the book that I mentioned before. It's like the first world and second world, effectively. And so within this, it's the ordinary world, call to adventure, refusal, meeting with the mentor, right? And then crossing the threshold into the special world, and then tests allies, and enemies, who are probably called Ali, and approached to Inmost Cave, right? And this is a beautiful thing, and I talk about slaying the dragon.
Yes.
And it's like, that's the whole premise, is that the dragon is a part of you that you have ignored, and the more it gets stronger by you ignoring it, and it's in a dark cave. It's if it comes for you, it's not a good day. You need to go to it. And on the other side of the dragon, as the mythological story says,
is the hoard of treasure.
Exactly right.
Is
and
the reward.
Your treasure, whatever your treasure is. So yeah, approach to Inmost Cave, ordeal, the reward, seizing the sword, for example, and the road back, resurrection, return with the elixir. Yeah. So through biblical stories, through to the Matrix, through to Fight Club, through to anything. It's true again and again and again. And it's really fascinating. I think the more we look into that, the more educated we get from.
So the shortfalls of living life like that, though, is that what happens at the end of the movie? Roll credits.
Right, I was gonna,
maybe
I usually
cutscene.
Go get a beer or something.
Maybe cutscene, but roll credits and you walk away with a warm fuzzy feeling.
Yeah.
Except Avengers Infinity War.
Oh, really?
Spoiler alert.
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, cool. I'll leave it there then, but you'll know exactly what I'm talking about at the end of that. Go watch it.
Right.
We should totally watch it now.
Yeah.
Anyway, but again, using the analogy of the fight, you have ordinary world, meet the mentor, enter into the special world being fight camp, the ultimate test, and then returning to the real world, roll credits. There's a problem with that, though, is that the credits don't roll.
No.
Win, loss, or draw. It's not in the newspaper, unless it's like at the very top level.
Sure.
Life returns to normal. You got to go back to work on Monday, whatever it is. So the problem with the story, and the story as we know it, is that we expect the climactic resolution of something. And that is often what people find as their, come to Jeebus moment, or whatever you want to call it. But, that kind of spiritual enlightenment point where, or kind of like the Matrix, he discovers that it's been a lie.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, shit. And what I wouldn't do to go back into the Matrix, but ignorance is not bliss. And now you know, now you're aware, it's time to keep going.
It's amazing in that, like, this is a hero of 1,000 faces, as the book is called, right? Meaning that the story is the same, the face is different. And so this story is about that you're sharing about martial arts, so to speak, or fighting. But that's just that's the vehicle.
Yep.
Right. So the vehicles are different per person, and so it's understanding the amount of people. And I've been one of this, and I'm sure in the future maybe I'll catch myself do it again. I'm sure I will. Where I'm like, I thought that I was going to have X after this.
Yes.
And this is the perfect way to break down the false idea of imposter syndrome, because it's not actually a syndrome. Just to clarify, there's not a medical, syndrome. It's something that we've created and gone, oh, I'll have some of that, thank you, because I feel a bit silly about this, and so that makes me feel better thinking that it's imposter syndrome. It's an actual thing. It's not a thing. It means you don't trust yourself. That's what it actually means. And so, understanding that, it's like, a lot of the time, people think by achieving something, for example, a fight, a certification or a qualification, a certain level at business, so you get promoted, right? They think that by having that label, that position, that belt, that they now become the thing. It's
Correct.
like, no, mate. if you want to be a grandmaster, you first have to be a grandmaster. And this is one of the biggest things I teach in my seminars. It's like, don't lead by position, you lead by presence. So you don't work on building a better position, you work on building a better presence. You work on building a smarter, more intellectual, more compassionate individual, and that person will have the position they deserve. And when we shift that focus, we then shift the ability that we have to make a positive impact on this earth. And that's what matters. So it's amazing how often the lesson we needed to learn was the win.
Yes.
And I don't feel any different. Why is that? And people do it with marriage, man. Like, people are like, oh, I'm married now. I'm meant to have things. Where's the white picket fence? That's the next thing. And then it's a dog and so on and so forth. And it's like, why do I feel empty? Maybe it's because of the next thing. I'll add the next thing to it.
Yeah.
Fuck, I still feel empty. We should get a bigger car. So on and so on and so forth. Until you get a caravan or a divorce. It's like...
Then what?
Yeah. Yeah. Then just watch the video again.
Yeah, correct.
20 years.
And if you do not learn from that process, you will repeat that process. And in 20 years again, you'll do it again, so on and so forth. So it's recognizing, as you're saying about when business partners split, you go, no, I need to understand how this occurred so that I don't repeat this again, and so on and so forth. And that internal investigation, although not played out in the public eye, can be just as brutal. And it requires a lot of self-discipline. It does require the input of a third party, being a mentor, and that kind of deal. And I use third party in the ultimate extent because it's you talking to you from the input of someone else, effectively, caused by something else, an external factor. And it's always funny. And again, at the end of that goal, whatever the event was that occurred. So one that leaps to mind is when I got my purple belt. So Chris Howder, been chatting to him, been in contact with him, all that kind of deal, brought him out to Australia, and then he went, cool, you're getting your purple belt. I was like, I'm honoured, but no. And he went, no, you're getting it. Oh, and by the way, Dan should get his brown, Aiden should get his purple as well. Spoke to them, they went, no, please, at least give us a year to really make sure we've earned this. Chris went, okay, fair enough. You have no choice.
Right.
I was like, mother... And of course, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there's, a term called candy belts, belt factories and that kind of deal.
Candy belts?
Yeah. Hand them out like candy.
Right.
This kind of thing.
I don't hand out candy too much.
Yeah, no. And
it attracts the wrong crowd.
No. Do you want to buy my van?
Yeah, I do.
Does
it come with Bear?
It does, actually.
Just to clarify, Bear is...
Bear is a Rottweiler. He's my gym dog. And a lot of you, if you jump on Dark Carnival, he features heavily.
On Instagram, yeah.
Yeah, Instagram and that
He's
kind
a
of
good
deal.
boy.
He's a great dog. Bear aside, though. And so, got the purple belt, lost a lot of friends and lost a lot of contacts and was painted in a very bad light.
By getting the purple belt?
Yeah.
Right.
2 years later, went back to the States, trained with Chris, and he went, cool, now you're a purple belt.
Right.
And I went, pardon? And he went, yeah, you had to get a kick in the ass. So I painted a big old target on your back to see if you would rise to the occasion or fall. And good on you, you're now a purple belt.
Right.
It's like, Jesus Christ. I understand this. Thank you, but fuck you, but thank you.
Yeah.
I think those are my exact words to him, actually.
Yeah.
And, I get it. And that was something that I never... So the Muay Thai gradings we have, for argument's sake, we put people up when we think they're ready to perform.
Sure.
Fights, we only put people in when we believe they're ready to perform. But having that kind of forced upon you in very limited circumstances with very select people, I think can be just as effective.
Yep.
Because without that kick in the ass, and especially in that realm, because I could have chilled out at blue belt.
Sure.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
But no, purples is now a different game, and brown belt especially is now entirely different.
Yeah. Are you brown now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that happened in
I do remember.
in March.
Yep.
March. And so that's 7 years, and then in March next year we'll tick over 8, so we're 7.5 years in.
Of BJJ.
Yeah.
Compared to like someone who does Taekwondo and often, this is not a crack at Taekwondo, but there are other martial arts where someone's a black belt by the age of 12.
Correct. Or you used to see it advertised heavily, be a black belt in 12 months.
Yeah.
And in that case, a belt is just something that holds your pants up. At that point in time. And not all black belts are created equally. But it's how they came, and the story, again, going back to the story, is how that came about. So I was cruising fine until someone else forced that...
it's almost like social pressure.
Correct. To rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
So you now need to... And I remember going to... I was training in... I was in Vegas, and I went to a good old Taipan gym. And I was training with them, and they're a solid comp gym.
Yep.
They're incredible. And went in there and, met the instructor, and then, looking like what I look like, they were like, oh, here we go. And then put the gi on and pulled the purple belt, and I'm going, oh yeah, purple belt. And man, like their blue belts were killing me.
Yep.
And I asked a question of one of the guys, because we were doing a piece of tech that I hadn't seen before. And I went, oh yeah, hey dude, quick question with this. And he goes, you're the purple belt, you tell me. I was like, oh, I hate your answer, but I love your answer.
Right.
But I hate your answer, because I probably should know this.
Yeah.
Damn it.
That's fascinating.
Very.
Hey, look, I got to duck to the toilet. This is my first toilet break ever on a podcast. But I got a question for you that you can answer to the listeners while I duck quickly.
Shoot.
These Bent Spoke Beers, which is a local brewery in Canberra. I'm not sponsored by them. We just cracked one. What type of person should consider going down and doing martial arts? I know it's a loaded question. That's why I thought I'd ask it. So, but I want you to think about the thought process people have. So the people that are sitting there going, oh, I'm probably not fit enough, or I should get fitter first. I don't want to look silly. I don't want to feel silly, and kind of work from that process. But I'll be about 60 seconds, if that. Thanks, man. Time's
on. 3, 2, 1, go. In short, everyone should do martial arts. Historically, it used to be a major part of most civilizations, some form of combative training. The motivation as to why people, even go down that road or get that interest of martial arts is so varied. But generally, it's because there's that feeling of weakness or inability or inadequacy that comes with it. So if this happened in a real world scenario, would I be able to defend myself? Man, I get bored with my current routine. I need to change it. This happened when I was a kid, or this happened when I was a young adult, whatever. I need to change and address this. And so the biggest thing is that to say that when you get fitter, you'll join a gym. You get fit by joining the gym. You'll lose weight, then you'll join a gym. No, you join a gym to lose weight. The hardest part in what I do as a martial arts coach and business owner is to overcome the stigma of what martial arts actually is and what occurs there. And in most heads, it's one of two extremes. It's either rock'em sock'em robots of 6 foot tall alpha males running around, that kind of deal, or it's everyone running forms and katas and playing empty force, magic. And overcoming those two stigmas are really, really difficult, let alone the social pressure of it, again, overcoming that state of the fear of vulnerability. But exactly as to, walking into the dragon's lair and putting yourself in that position of facing the dragon, let alone reaching into its mouth, the hero's journey, kind of summarizes that really well. If you want to put into a movie perspective, you have no idea what waits for you. Stepping onto the mats, putting yourself in that state of vulnerability, meeting some cool people, learning some functional skills, and then using those and seeing the correlation. You go, wow, this is no different to my day-to-day life. That how I responded to this person doing this is no different to if my kid got angry and did this. Or, oh, when I was at work the other day, this happened. I should have probably handled it exactly how I would handle it on the mats, because it's no different. Conflict is conflict. Interpersonal conflict is there. The fear is real, and learning to deal with that fear and realizing that fear isn't a bad thing. It's your body's natural self-preservation going, hey, be careful. Anxiety is not a bad thing. In the medical definition of it, yeah, cool. But being nervous about something can be translated either as anxious about it, as in fear, or excitement so rapidly. And, I've seldom met anyone who right before a grading is 100% fine for it, right before a match 100% fine for it, before they walk out of the ring 100% fine for it. It just doesn't occur. And so when you realise that, okay, these stereotypes that I've held myself to and these standards, non-existent that I've held myself to, truly don't exist, then you go, oh, okay, I'm a human being, and I'm surrounded by human beings. And that's what I love about martial arts, is you realise, your preconceived notions are wrong, and quickly can't turns to can. And it's incredible. It's great.
And often everyone else in that room is actually had the same thinking you did prior to going in.
Everyone has their own stories.
Yeah.
And, you take anyone and grab them off the mat and interview them. And, that would be a great side project.
Yeah.
Like I know Gaz Rees, Chopper. He has, Humans of Chopper.
Right.
Awesome to get to know that individual. Obviously, though, there's some things that as a coach you come to know about your students and your clients as to their motivations and why they're there that they might not necessarily be comfortable to talk about. However, me looking out on the mats, and then when I get a person come in and go, oh, I can't do this, and I look at them and I go, you've got 2 arms, 2 legs and a heartbeat. Like, you have motive function. Get on the mats.
Yeah. It's the same when someone walks into the gym and they'll be like, oh, I'm really uncoordinated. I'm like, that's really crazy. They're like, right? I'm like, I literally watched you walked in and you did so well.
Amazing, right?
You were like left,
you
right.
Didn't even trip
left,
over once.
Right. And I'm like, I'm so proud of you. They're like, fuck you. And I'm like, well, play your cards right. But it's interesting the beliefs that run the stories.
Yes.
So.
And the belief and the reinforced belief of dogma.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or doctrine is incredible. Absolutely incredible. And it is really, really cool as a coach, though, to be part of people's stories and watch them challenge those beliefs and break down those dogmas. And, it is incredibly rewarding. And then on the same accord, you challenge your own in the process.
So I've got a personal question for you, and probably personal from my end. I remember back to my blue grading for Thai. And I remember thinking back afterwards, because I didn't feel it was the same as some of the other guys' blue grading. I feel like theirs was this is not I'm not writing my thinking. I'm aware of that. It's like understanding it, right? And I remember the watching other people grade to blue, as the grades go as yellow, orange, blue, green, brown, black. Yep. And so yellow is just hands, orange is just legs. Blue is hands and legs, kickboxing. Yep.
Ringcraft tactic, that kind of deal.
Yep, exactly right. So yeah, not just kickboxing in that case, is that there's a lot more to it than...
No, but it is kickboxing using hands and legs.
Yeah, yes. Exactly right. Yeah.
So green is modified Thai.
Yep.
So the introduction of clinch work, catch trap, and more advanced ringcraft and tactic. Brown is introducing the elbows, and starting to form your full Thai rules game. And the black grading is your expression of Muay Thai full Thai rules as you understand it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fantastic. So, so I remember watching the other Blues grade, I was like, fuck, that's really brutal. And then I remember grading it, and it was somewhat brutal, but I felt like it wasn't the same, it was different. And I understand each student's different, so that's fair enough. But can you break that down to me then? Am I off in my thinking with that, or... Because, I mean, it was a number of years ago now.
Yeah, 100%. And I still remember it very, very clearly.
Yeah, you and I both.
Believe it or not. But I'll pull you up on exactly what you said, which is I watched the others' gradings.
Yeah.
So did you grade alongside anyone?
Not a blue.
For that grading?
No.
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 So you watched other people's gradings,
Yeah.
and then as you were doing yours, you kind of overlaid
Yeah, for sure.
This-
Yeah, I can see that.
this belief in it. Yep. So whose gradings did you watch?
I think Aiden graded before I did he?
Oh, Aiden graded way
Blue?
way before. Yeah.
He graded for Blue way before?
Yeah.
Because I graded in Fish Week. So, and we left Fish Week within 2 years. So...
Jeez, you might have been there for Aiden's grading, actually.
Yeah. Because we both graded for Orange together. And same
Yeah,
with,
true.
same with
No,
Alex.
you would have actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at the timeline of it, no, you are entirely correct.
Yeah.
You would have watched his grading. Yeah.
So that's where Aiden's grading and probably Alex's grading. I think Alex graded Blue before I did
Yep.
as well. And for those that are referencing here, Aiden is the most happiest and loving, unemotional person with the fucking hardest hands I've ever met.
Oh man, when you step in the ring with him,
Yeah.
you are going against a human computer.
Yeah, exactly
I
right.
fucking love sparring him, and I miss sparring him.
Yeah, he's a
like
good
nothing
dude.
else.
I was
he's
only
an
thinking about
incredible-
him literally this morning. So.
Yeah, he's an incredible human being. I
And
caught
then,
up with him not long ago.
Yeah, good.
And him and Mel and little baby Hendrix.
Hendrix,
Fucking
it's
cool,
fucking
man.
great.
Yeah.
So I suppose like that's I mean they're probably the
So-
two ones that I can. I mean this is going back. This is going back what 8 years? No, must be no
Yeah.
maybe 7, but still.
No, we'd be pushing 8, man.
Yeah.
Actually, be pushing
Yeah.
8.
Longest green. Green.
Dude,
prep.
AJ's still the longest yellow, so
Oh,
that's
is
fine.
it? Yes.
But no. So exactly as you said, the gradings are different for the individual.
Yeah.
So if you had watched Aiden's grading, so Aiden came into this, the guy's now, what, he'd be 38 this year,
Yeah.
still rocking a six-pack.
He looks younger than me.
Yeah, literally. I think Benjamin Button syndrome. I don't know.
Yes.
But,
Him and Simon Lee.
but yeah, exactly. Right. But I mean, he'd just come off, bodybuilding, trying something new, all this kind of deal. The guy is analytical as, so he will analyze everything. He'll break it down until he understands it, and then he'll rinse, repeat, do. He'll combine that 10,000 hours into, 3 weeks.
Yep.
And have any skill. He's just that kind of learner. And it's credit to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Incredibly. So his grading, we challenged him to try and get the emotional response
Right.
out of him. Because when he's on the mats, almost impossible to get an emotional response out of him.
Yeah.
And he didn't break, so he kept going.
Yeah. I feel like with Aiden, it's like, and this is, I suppose, for everyone playing at home, it's like, these are the archetypes of individuals that we come
Correct.
up against in day-to-day life, right? With Aiden, like, one of the hardest things when sparring him is, like, if I got a round on him, hypothetically, right? It's almost like he wouldn't have given it to me. He was disappointed in himself.
Yes.
And I'm like, fuck you, man. I'm like...
Yeah, that was
I did
my good effort.
Yeah,
My
that's
timing
right.
that got that
And he's
shot.
like, oh, I should have done this.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
should have
like,
checked it. Yeah.
No. I just beat your ass 1 out of fucking 20. Give me a break.
Yeah.
But it was
his failing, not your success. Yes, correct.
Yeah. Which was,
And that attitude is unique. It's not for everyone. And but he's made it work like nothing else.
yeah.
So then you go to Alex, and you go, okay, Alex. He's what 6 years younger.
So he's younger than me.
Yeah.
But only not much younger than me. He'd be a couple of years. So I'm 29, so he'll be 27, around that.
I think he's 25, 26.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like
I'm
2,
just
3
making
years.
myself feel more, yeah.
Yeah, 2-3 years. Yep. But back then, younger, hungrier,
Sure.
that kind of deal. Also came from a taekwondo background.
Yeah,
So he
yeah.
had that, like, the black belt.
Fuck his legs.
And like Quadzilla.
Yep.
Fucking phenomenal, right? And so for him, it was to see how long it would take for him to tap into that emotional response.
Right.
Because his inner critic is massive.
Yeah.
And debilitating. So we put everything forward to see how long he would stay focused for, and he did. So with yours, it's a combination of the two, of the physicality of Aiden with the emotional context of Alex, because your inner critic was brutal when you were younger. And so, okay, let's physically push this dude. And the fact that you stood there and kept getting up, kept going, kept pushing, kept everything, and the technique was fine. Like, the application of it might not have been up to your ideal standard.
Beaten.
Yeah, but you remember being beaten, but you didn't shell up, you didn't take an E, you didn't stop, you kept moving. And I mean, case in point was your fight, for argument's sake.
Yeah. Which would happen
inside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside. Literally just shell up inside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside, and win.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's exactly how, you know, you graded successfully. Although you might not have been able to perform how you performed, like, admirably.
Yeah,
it was fine. There was nothing wrong with the performance. As always, though, and as martial artists, and again, this is the chasing the dragon now.
Yeah.
Effectively. And I mean, you know, for all my martial arts colleagues out there, I'd love to get your word on this, but you'll never have that fight. Whether you win, lose, or draw. If you win an easy fight, it should have been harder. Yeah. If you win a hard fight, it should have been easier. If you draw, undecided.
Yeah.
If you lose by getting knocked out in 10 seconds, I should have put up a harder fight. And if you lose after a hard fight, I probably should have won.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter what you do. And in hindsight, you don't have that perfection of clarity. But what it does identify, though, is you go, okay, cool. My unit of measurement, my measurement of victory, my win conditions, evolves and adapts. So if you could go back and do your blue grading again, what would you do differently?
Nothing. I think with what I had then.
No,
like,
now.
Okay, now. Right.
So if we grab Dave now and we throw him back and we go, cool, coach him.
I'm going back into my memories now. I suppose to get out of my head and into the body.
Bingo.
Yeah, which is something that I've learned through maturity in other areas that weren't fighting, right?
Yeah. So and regardless, that learning would have occurred.
Yeah.
But exactly as we're talking about here, that's experience. And so for your experience graded then and there, you did great.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, obviously that ties into like I keep on going back onto it, but the art side of martial arts, and it's something that's I think is really underrated. Is and Miffy's fucking pumping some music downstairs. She's like, I'm training and looking at her phone. I think she's upset about something. This is what you play when you're upset. Maybe I'm just judging, but the art side of things, it just gives us this beautiful creative. I mean, that's where I talked before about the feminine energy and like that being the creative energy sort of thing. That's the art side of things.
Yes.
It allows us to be flexible and to flow and to be able to be compassionate and empathetical. And I remember a great story about Muhammad Ali. Who was the fighter? Was it Joe Fraser? I can't remember who the fighter was now, but he was like a mouth, right? And he was like more than Ali, and
more than Ali
in the sense of ego rather than could back it up. I can't remember exact, but I do remember this point. And what happened was that like Ali knocked him down, and he had an opportunity on his way down to hit him again. Like he was there, ref wasn't there. He had another opportunity. He cocked his hand, and then he already knew he won the fight, so he didn't do anything. He walked away. And him giving, right, and this is his experience, him giving, I can't remember who it was, let's just say Fraser for the sake of it, so I've got a name. Him giving Fraser that space matured Fraser.
Yep.
And because if he cracked him, which he had the opportunity to do so, right, like he'd already won. I already beaten you, mate. Like it's done. Like I don't need to do anything else. You know what, everyone here knows, I know. Me hitting you now is going to make you jaded for the rest of your fighting career.
Yes.
And by showing that empathy in that moment, by not completely finishing him, actually grew him into a man. Because I mean, mind you, he had an opportunity to respond how he wanted to respond, but it humbled him in understanding that he was never going to be the best because he couldn't do that. And it's like you won't be complete until you're able to, combine and integrate this empathy and compassion. And understanding that is one of the most difficult things for a lot of men to realize. But it's the same as females, like to to truly become whole, it's accepting their ability to create order and structure and be somewhat assertive, not passive. And yeah, I think that there's something beautiful in that, and I think it's underrated a lot of the time with martial arts, and how, like you mentioned before, how it carries across to real life.
Yes, yeah, entirely. And I mean, there's a whole lot going on at the moment with, men's rights, women's rights, human rights. My right, my right, my right. And the one person that does not care about your rights is a predator.
Yeah.
They do not care about your rights. And so unfortunately, those predators exist on every nature and scale. So not everyone wants to kill you. Not everyone wants to sexually assault you, rape you, that kind of thing. Not everyone wants to physically assault you. Some people are happy with social sabotage. Some people are happy with asserting their dominance in the workplace, like that kind of thing. They're all predators by any
sure.
Standard of the word. And so having that confidence, and I mean, the $1 million question people always ask me is, if someone king hit you, what would you do? I'm like, okay, let's flesh out this scenario. Am I conscious?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, cool. Did I hit the ground? Yes. Did they follow me? No. Okay, well, cool. First things first, make sure I survive on the ground, get back to my feet. Is exit an option? What do you mean is exit an option? Can I run? Running's not an option. Yeah, it is. It's a fucking good option. It's a really good option at that point in time. Like, there's this dude just walked up and clocked you. He's targeted you. Get the fuck out of there. But
he shouldn't have done that.
He shouldn't have done that.
He probably shouldn't have. You're right.
Probably shouldn't have.
However,
and he had no right to.
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
Yeah.
And now, okay, yeah, but you can. Yeah, I can. That's not a problem. I don't need to prove this. But my self-preservation says, fucking get your ass out of there.
Yeah.
If escape is an option, then we go through this whole tactical, like...
Sure.
But until then, cool.
Yeah, it's interesting around self-preservation is also... And this is one thing I'm like, hear people say, it's like, men don't know what it's like to... I don't want to go into this too much. I talked a bit about this with Big Mike Eichlauser on Friday, but men don't know what it's like to be targeted or something like that. It's just like, to feel worried about walking down a street. It's like, nah, I don't know, maybe I'm unique. I think you'd be the same as this. If I'm walking down the street or an alley, I have headphones in, they're not playing. Like if
I don't have headphones in.
Yeah, well, that's like I might be listening to something while I'm in the shops, and then if I go to the car park, my headphones aren't playing.
Yeah,
and I've already sussed out where everything is. Maybe it's because I run a worst case scenario program, but I'm like, okay, here are my keys. This is, I'm already done this sort of stuff. It's not like I'm not worried about anything at all. I'm not thinking that's naive. I would say that's naive for me. Now I'm 5'8", 5'9" on a good day. And like
sit up straight, that's it.
Like
you and me both.
Yeah, I probably weigh like around 88 kilos or something like that. Like I'm not a big guy, right? But I'm just not playing that game.
No,
I've already sussed out things, and that's saying that it's the other thing. I think if I had family around me, I don't want to learn then at that stage how to make sure that it's like, well, people shouldn't do that. You're right, they shouldn't.
Yeah, they shouldn't,
but they do.
What then?
Yeah. So also I need to suss it out in the sense of, is someone else going to be attacked? Like this is a real threat in reality right now. We're not living in a fucking utopia.
No.
So let's understand that and let's see what we can do with what we can do now and push towards a better state.
And I mean, it's not even learn how to defend yourself, but know how to fight if it comes down to it. Because defend yourself and self-defense, it just screams that you're under attack.
Sure, yeah.
And for majority of people, they've never been attacked.
Yeah.
Or if they have, it was at school by another kid. And so we grow into these full-grown males, full-grown females, and that is our fear. That what happened at school, and I was powerless then, I'll be powerless now. What do I do about that? Well, fucking get yourself some skill, get yourself some experience.
Yeah.
And my partner, Mika, she put up a post, so shared it on, and it was a man's worst fear in prison is a woman's worst fear day to day. I was like, holy shit, that's, yeah. Didn't think of it that way. But yeah, and this is true, but these are things that you know, and you know, when I'm promoting the benefits of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and yeah, I'm talking to a potential female student or client, I'll go, look, the chances of me being sexually assaulted outside of prison are fairly small, but for all females, you should all learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And fair enough to say, yeah, but we shouldn't have to.
Yeah. And look, I mean, no one's going to disagree with that point.
But again, I shouldn't have to have health cover.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to have insurance. I shouldn't have to have all this kind of deal. But I do have business insurance, God forbid if something happens on the mats. I do have health cover, God forbid something happens to me. But you know, it's that level of preparation, effectively going, okay, let's stack everything in my favor that should anything ever happen, I've got a response.
Totally. It's also like one of the biggest things people talk about, body confidence, and like
tremendously.
Body confidence is not a fucking selfie, right? Like, sure, I'm not saying don't take them. Like, I joke around about them a fair bit, but in the general sense, I'm not saying don't take that or shouldn't train to be aesthetically pleasing. It just means that ideally we're going to mate with another healthy mate and produce healthy. It's actually biological, but body confidence is confidence in your body's ability to do something.
Correct.
And so this is why actually there's a book called The Boy Crisis by Dr. Warren Farrell, I'm pretty sure his name is. And so Jordan Peterson interviewed him. It was a great interview as well. I shared it, and it's one worth listening to. But he talks about the importance of the masculine role model within a family, and how play. So there was actually studies done, and so people with a healthy masculine at home are more compassionate than the ones that didn't have a masculine at home. So the idea was that females teach the compassion, so to speak, and that having a man would actually increase that. It doesn't. It's actually having them both there increases the compassion in the child, but also the importance of play, right? And that can go down the conversation of unsupervised play, which is horrible to think about in today's age, but it's actually how children should play. It's just that we're worried about them being abducted or something. But either way, another conversation. But my whole point of this being like, the importance of playing and wrestling is actually learning dexterity. It's actually learning where my limbs go, where they shouldn't go, what hurts, what doesn't hurt, how I can use my body. And so that play, we see it in animals, is actually crucial. And so getting your kids to gymnastics, getting your kids to do some sort of martial arts, getting your kids to play sport. And so I think I heard this maybe 8 years ago, but it's probably true now, is that the rates of wrist sprains and breaks are the highest across any youthful population in the last decade, because kids don't know how to roll because they're busy playing sports on the Xbox, not actually playing sports. And so when they fall, they just put their hands out and they end up breaking their wrists, rather than knowing how to roll, like I would have learned playing sport. You grew up playing football as well, so I remember now it's like something happens and you're just like, oh, lucky that could have been worse. It's like, because I learned to roll. And so it's interesting in that realm of like the importance of play is so crucial, because it builds body confidence that becomes subconscious, so therefore I can be injury free and understand the dexterity of my limbs. Yeah,
correct. And I mean, it's always good because we get the kids in, and so we have the
videos of the kids.
The DC Kids program. And I mean, Jerry Wetzel, who's a good friend, coach and mentor of mine in the States, in LA, over at Centerline Gym, he had the opportunity to go over there and watch how he coached kids, and his sense of humor was mature. So there were puns, there was nothing offensive in it, but it'd be a reference to like the Goonies, something like this, and the kids would be sitting there blank-eyed, and I'd be laughing my head off, it'd be gold. And I know that he'd be making those kinds of like references if I was there or not. So it wasn't made for my intent. That's the story. And so it was cool though, because the kids would start to inquire, what, like, I don't get it. And then they would go home and look at it and then come back and go, oh, like, I looked it up and it was really funny, or that really wasn't funny. Like, because it's 1980s humor. You weren't even like a thought. But watching how he interacted with the kids, and then looking at how I interacted with the kids. And here's an American kind of standard and an Australian standard.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I was telling Jerry, like, one of the kids, I said, cool, dude, bring it in and take your structure. The kid was like a little gymnast, and he did like this amazing cartwheel round off and then landed, and I kicked his legs out from underneath him.
Right.
And he didn't break fall. And he hit the ground, his eyes went wide, and his mum is sitting on the stairs laughing her head off.
Right.
And literally as he's airborne, I went, I probably shouldn't have done that. Boom. Definitely shouldn't have done that. And I leant over and I said to him, cool, what was the instruction? And he went, you said to bring it in and take my structure. I said, did I tell you to do a cartwheel, and finish off for points? He went, no. I said, why do we not stand with our feet together? Because we can get swept. And what do we do when we're about to fall? We break fall. What did we learn today? And his mum was going, he's like, that just curbed his
behaviour.
His behaviour like incredibly well, because then when any of the other gym instructors would go, all right, because he's a little gymnast, bring it in, he'd just run straight over and stand there ready to go.
Yeah.
The other kids would be like, okay, my time to shine. Which, don't get me wrong, like I'm all for artistic impression, that kind of deal, and especially in kids, I promote it. But when there's certain things that have to be done, and there is actually a timeline, a threat to themselves, danger, massive, huge. We're learning kicks in term 3. We're learning kicks and knees.
That's a little front kick the wall.
Yeah, and they're all front kicking the wall and this kind of deal, and they're hitting boom, and they're trying to make as much noise as they can. So they're kicking hard.
Yeah.
And so, okay, kids, hold the pad for each other now.
Mm-hmm.
Boom! You kicked me too hard. They go flying, they drop the pad, holding the pad out in front of them. It's like, no, you need to understand what you're doing. Again, you need to have confidence in what you're doing to someone else, but also what someone else can do to you. And in that understanding of it, you see these little light bulbs go, this is why I don't kick you. Yeah, it's why you don't kick me, because I'm 80 odd kilos trained. My shins have been kicking stuff longer than you've been alive.
Yeah.
You see there's a light bulb moment, and they go, right. And I'm pretty sure that majority of, anyone like 25 plus would, when I was a kid, I used to be terrified. No, not terrified. I would never dream of walking up and talking shit or being aggressive to an older group of people. If there was a police officer, I was like, oh my God, that's an enforcer of the law. And that was it. Whereas you get kids now, and you get young teenagers, you get teenagers who are, will happily throw down with anyone. And you're like, what the hell? Where's that level of respect? Like, back the confidence, but it's misplaced, dude. Like, it's dangerous.
Yeah, it happens a lot in the early teenage years. They're just testing authority.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, if we're too cushioned about their feelings and don't allow order to be in place, then it's like you're going to deal with this delinquent as a 30-year-old.
Yeah.
Like at some point. And the tribe, so to speak, or the village used to be able to bring it up and deal with it, and everyone got along. And so this is where the rights come into play. I know my rights. It's like, yeah, but let's talk about your fucking responsibilities, mate.
Yeah.
Your responsibility, the thing that you're able to respond to, is how you deal with other individuals.
Yeah.
And this is something that's not being talked about enough, is that it's like, well, my rights, my rights. It's like, what the fuck are your responsibilities?
Yeah.
Because your rights are my responsibility.
And, like, as corny as this is, and, like, I'm totally going to get T-shirts printed with this, so, your ability to respond is your responsibility.
Right.
Like, as corny as that sounds...
Well, it just spells out the word.
It does. It's so bloody true. Like, exactly, right, cool. How are you going to respond? Oh, no, but it's my right. So you have no response.
Yeah.
So you have a shortfall and you believe it should be backed up.
Yeah, the state response.
Yeah, the state. Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. Yeah.
There's always a higher authority, and it's a bad way to live. So...
And unless you keep a police officer in your back pocket that's going to leap out and defend your, good luck.
Yeah. Oh, Mitch, it's been a very good 90 minutes.
Holy crap, really?
Absolutely.
There you go.
I've enjoyed every minute. Mate, thank you very much for jumping on the podcast.
No, thank you for having me, man.
Do you have any final things to finish up with at all?
Get on the mats, get in the gym. You will not regret it.
No, I don't
at all.
It. Good man. Now, if people want to learn more about Dark Carnival, where do they find out more about? You and Dark Carnival.
So you can jump on Android or I saw we have an app. We have our Facebook account, Dark Carnival. You'll see our cool little logo. Instagram, Dark Carnival _CBR, so Dark Carnival Canberra, and our website, darkcarnival.com.au.
Beautiful.
Sorry, I should say dark-carnival.com.au. We've got them both. I'll reroute.
Google
anyway.
it. You'll be able to find
Google it. We're on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have any questions, queries, or otherwise, and we offer the first week complimentary because it is important to trial it.
Sure.
If people are interested in private training, we do the first one-on-one complimentary because again, it's always important to trial it. See if it's for you first.
Yeah.
See if you're ready to do it.
And see if they're for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly it as well.
Indeed. And on that note, our GoPro just finished up at the same time. Perfect timing. Mate, thank you very much. I'm sure I'll probably get you on another time where we can enjoy a beverage.
Look forward to it, brother.
Keep talking. Otherwise, until next time, peace and pizza. Kick today in the dick. Slay the dragon. I'll see you soon.